Hi there, business owner, and welcome to the 3Bs podcast, the place where we go beyond the numbers and dive into strategies to help you build a better business one step at a time. I'm your host, Stephanie, a multi-award-winning entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in the bookkeeping and accountancy world. If you're a business owner looking to streamline, grow, and get back the time that you deserve, you're in the right place. We're tackling real-world problems, answering tough questions, and digging deep into business-building secrets in just 15 minutes each week. So are you ready to build a better business with confidence and clarity? Then let's go.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 3Bs podcast, your go-to place for 15 minutes of CPD certified inspiration, motivation and education every week. Now, if we've not met before, my name is Stephanie. I am an entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in the bookkeeping and accountancy world, multi-award winning podcaster, author, speaker, really caring about businesses and humans behind the businesses, helping them build better businesses. If you're listening to this episode, we're switching gears a little bit today. I want to talk about the autumn budget that was announced last week because I think it's really important to see what that means as a human, as an individual, as well as a business owner. It's for employees, families, renters, savers, the human side of the autumn budget 2025. Because while the business world feels the tax rises one way, ordinary households are going to feel it another. And most business owners are humans too, and they have families and households to run just the same as their businesses. So let's get into the real impact, not the political headlines, of how it's going to affect you as an individual. First things first is the stealth tax, I think they're calling it. Thresholds are frozen until 2030 for national insurance, VAT, and income tax. National minimum wage rates are increasing, which means, yes, if you're on national minimum wage, you're about to get a pay rise. Congratulations. But what that means is because the threshold is frozen, you're more likely to go over that threshold and into paying tax, which actually means that increase is not what you feel in your pocket. A great example of this is if you're on minimum wage on a full-time contract, 37.5 hours a week. Your current take-home, based on 25-26 prices at $12.21 an hour, is £1,984 a month. And then after your income tax, your national insurance, and your pension contributions have been taken off, your take-home is £1,663. Following the new introduction of the increase to £12.71 an hour from April 2026, your income will be £2,065 a month, and your take-home pay after all the deductions will be £1,719, which is an increase of £56 per month in your pocket. Not only does that push more people into paying tax at the basic rate, it also means more people are put into the 40% tax band. Now, to be clear, and I explained this on last week's episode, that 40% tax band is not immediately your entire income. The bands stay the same even if your income increases. So you'll get your £12,570 personal allowance, you'll get £37,500 on top of that at 20%, and then we go up into the next threshold of 40%, and then the higher threshold at the end. It's a pay more tax without realising situation, which is why I thought this episode was so important to share with you, because actually the effect of the income tax and the headline doesn't actually mean that much more money in your pocket. If you earn interest on your savings outside of ISAs or pension income, from April 2027, the tax you are charged on that is going to increase by 2%. So the basic rate becomes 22%, the higher rate becomes 42%, and the additional rate becomes 47%. If you save, then this affects you. If you've moved cash out of investments into high interest savings accounts, this affects you too. And if you rely on your personal savings allowance, this really matters. Property income. If you rent out property to another person, then as a landlord, your property income is going to be increased by 2% from April 2027 too. If you are someone who rents a property rather than mortgages, if you don't own your home and you rent your home as an individual, because the tax is increasing on property income, there's higher mortgage rates, lower relief. Renters are likely to see this passed on to them. So your rent is probably going to go up because the landlord's costs have gone up too. And the cost of living, nothing's really changing. They did announce some new energy support, and they are moving some of the greener levies, which means our household gas and electric bills should hopefully be reduced by around £150 a year. Again, not a lot, but it's something. There's no new cost of living payments. There's no major household tax cuts. You own a house and it's worth $2 million or more, you will be getting what's been dubbed the mansion tax. So you'll get a £2,500 bill on top of your council tax from your council. If your home is worth £5 million or more, you'll get £7,500 charge on top of your council tax. That will come into effect from April 2028. As I mentioned in last week's episode 2, fuel duty has been frozen for another 5 months until September 2026. Now, what that means is the cost at the pump shouldn't move for the next extra 5 months. That was due to end in April, but next they've extended it till September. And the government also announced that there is going to be some sort of scheme set up so that when the wholesale prices of petrol fluctuate, the petrol garages have to pass on that savings or that increase. They can't inflate prices if the wholesale price goes down of petrol, which I think will be very beneficial for us. A big headline was that the universal credit 2-child cap is being lifted, which means you are not going to be penalised if you have more than 2 children and you are on universal credit. The state pension will still rise under the triple lock as it does every year annually. And usually that means that the benefits do too, but I didn't see confirmation for that in the autumn statement. So it is worth double checking that. Usually your other benefits, if you have disabled children and your DLA or your personal independent payment PIP, if you are disabled, that usually goes up by inflation each year. I didn't see any confirmation of that either way. So that's something to keep an eye out for from April 2026. Electric vehicle costs. From 2028, electric vehicle drivers pay per mile road tax. What that means is if you have an electric vehicle, you'll be charged 3 pence per mile. And if you have a hybrid vehicle, you'll be charged 1.5 pence per mile that you have driven in that vehicle in the year. And you'll pay that annually alongside your vehicle road tax. And I know that obviously electric vehicles used to be free and that's gone up now. But traditional drivers still pay fuel duty, the vehicle excise duty itself, so the road tax we pay on our vehicles, is going to rise again above inflation. So transport costs continue creeping up. However, Rachel Reeves did announce that rail fares will be frozen, the freeze on bus fares will be extended, and the cost of a prescription is being frozen too, which, as we know, has gone up astronomically in the last few years. So again, those little things will hopefully make things slightly easier. Kind of just take the edge off, don't they? It makes things a little easier as a household trying to run a budget and keep a roof over our head and food in our bellies. The OBR, so the Office of Budget Responsibility, do announce their predictions, and they did announce that they think inflation will be 0.4% lower next year. But they also forecast that there will be fewer house purchases, slower price growth, stretched affordability, and higher borrowing costs for even longer. So if you're an existing homeowner, yes, it's hard right now, especially if your mortgage is due for renewal and your product's come to the end of its cycle. If you're a renter, is it tricky? Absolutely. Trying to get on that housing ladder is not an easy thing. And I think that OBR's forecast for inflation and growth and the cost going up for us all as the cost of living is making it even harder. So what should individuals do right now? If I was you, 1, make sure you're using those ISAs. Saving taxes rise from April 2027. You need to use those allowances to their full if you can. Rachel Reeves announced, as it stands, it's £20,000 per year you can put into a cash ISA tax-free without being charged savings tax on it. She did announce that what's going to happen is there's going to be £8,000 for investments, £12,000 for cash, unless you're aged over 65, in which case £20,000 cash limit will still apply to you. That is to encourage people to invest more, and I understand why she's doing it, and more information will come out on that before April 2027, so we may cover it on a later podcast episode. But it's something to be aware of and start getting into the habit now. 2, revisit your pension contributions. Salary sacrifices loses its tax benefit from April 2027 too. So before, if you had a salary sacrifice via pension scheme, if you're employed, then is your pension scheme salary sacrifice or is it not? That's something to go and check and be aware of. From 2027, employers and employees' national insurance will be charged on salary sacrifice pension contributions, which means you're going to get less put in the pension. It's going to cost your employer more to contribute their auto-enrollment percentage too, which means you're going to have less in your pension overall. 3, review your household budget. Costs won't fall. They'll just rise more slowly. I think we've all noticed when we go to the supermarkets to do our grocery or food shop that the costs are more now than they've ever been. And that is going to rise, but it's going to be slower than it was before. So that's something to take into consideration with your household budget when you know how much you're putting away each month for food out of your income. 4, if you're planning to buy a home, expect fewer bargains. Lower prices don't automatically mean a better affordability. Definitely go and see a mortgage advisor. Go and speak to them. A lot of them will offer like a free consultant discovery call like we do at ABCS UK. Go and have those conversations. Understand the position you're in, what you can and can't afford from a mortgage affordability basis when you're looking for that house to get on the ladder or move to a different home. And 5, please go and get advice from a financial advisor before withdrawing savings or investments. The tax landscape has just changed, and the way that it's always been is not the way it's going to be going forwards. Somebody once said to me that the autumn budget and statement is a little bit like being a doctor, and that every 6 months they rearrange all the organs and expect you still to operate on the body and get the operation done nice and smoothly. It's like that for accountants and financial advisors as well. So as these tax changes are happening, as they're going to continue to keep changing, go and speak to an expert, because they'll be able to advise you on the best route to take. They'll be able to advise you on your position, your options, and any changes that may impact you positively or negatively. So that's the autumn budget roundup individual edition. So if you want the business owner version, go back to episode 139. If you want both, listen twice, take notes, whether you're on the dog walk, school run, making a cup of tea, do what you've got to do. If you need support, you want a 15-minute call, jump in my diary. We can get on a virtual call, discovery call, abcsuk.com. Even if you don't own a business, I'm happy to give you 15 minutes of my time to help reduce that worry, that uncertainty, and get clear on what these changes actually mean for you and your unique circumstances. And please, for the love of God, do not listen to Dave down the pub unless he's a certified expert, because the amount of time people come to us, but my mate said, but they don't understand your unique circumstances and that you've got property income, or you rent something out, or you've got a job and a side hustle. So go and speak to an expert. I don't want you to get into any more stress or worry or trouble. Go and see an expert. Book into my diary if you want to speak to me, and I'll help you make the most of these changes in the budget. If you found this episode useful, please do like, rate, and review. Subscribe on YouTube so you get a 15-minute episode every Thursday. It really helps me get this podcast out to more business owners so we can all build better businesses. I've been Stephanie Marshall. I hope this has been helpful, and I'll see you for the next episode. Bye.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of the 3Bs podcast. I hope you found it useful and that you're walking away with some motivation, inspiration, or education to help you build a better business. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and of course connect with us on social media for more insights, tips, and behind the scenes content. Your next step in building a better business is just a click away. I can't wait to connect with you, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.